Hello, my precious humans. Okay, I got some really important stuff to talk about today, and I heard this random stat. I didn't perform the study or anything, but even if it's not exactly accurate, it's messed up. And that is that 84% of us humans can't change our behavior to save our lives. And think about it, like I'm the perfect case study, first of all. But like changing you got to change your diet from doc, or you're gonna die. Do we do it? No. Got to quit smoking, or you're gonna die. Do we do it? No. Got to start exercising, or you're gonna die. Do we do it? No. For me, it was a lot of those things, but mainly it was you have to quit drinking or you are going to die. And I was told this in no uncertain terms many times when I went into detoxes, which I went into many times. Alcohol detox. These are where your body is so. I drank myself so close to death that I had to go into a place behind locked doors. I voluntarily submitted myself because I could no longer continue to exist. I had to keep on drinking. I could not stop, but I wanted to so badly. So I had to go in a place where there was no access to go get alcohol. I could not stop that behavior to save my life. And it was bad. That was over an 8-year period until now there's hope here. You see this little until? It was March 14th, 2017, when I started to figure out, holy shit, I was spiraling downward again, and my brain was telling me, "You're a piece of crap. You're no good. You can't." I just had my son was 3, my twin girls were 0, and I was starting to spiral down again, and I was about to go drink again. And then, one of I brought up the kids because one of the things was saying, how the hell do you think you're going to take care of these things that you love so much and need so much attention when you can't even take care of yourself, you piece of shit? And you think, okay, when we have kids, of course we're going to stop drinking them because we're doing it for the kids, right? But it becomes 1,000 times worse because this weight of the world gets so much worse. And this brain was saying, you're awful. You're no good. You haven't lived up to be enough. You're not what you're supposed to be. You suck. And it's screaming the solution. Drink, 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 drink. 1,000, 7,000, I'd say about 7,000 times a day, my brain told me to go get a drink. There was no amount of willpower that could stop me from eventually breaking down. I never made it in those 8 years. I never made it more than 6 months. So yes, I am very much aware of this statistic. 84% of people of us humans can't change our behavior to save our lives because I was very much in that. And that was just drinking. There was no way I was going to change my diet or start exercise and do those other things when I couldn't get the main bottleneck down. I mean, I was screwed. And then I came up with the initial concepts of the IC solution, what I call the instinctual core solution. I tried everything out there: therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, DBT, CBT, RBT, RGS, obviously AA, 12-step meetings, smart meetings, Buddhism, meditation, everything. Nothing worked until I came up. Actually, he was my sponsor. Told me one day, he's like, "Hey, we loved each other. He's like, Roger, I can't be your sponsor anymore. I'm just leading you into this circular path where you're going to die." And so he fired me and he said, "You got to do something different." And that's when I did. And it was kind of like that day, I said, March 14th, 2017. My last drink was February 25th, 2017, but it was March 14th where I started a downward spiral. And then all of a sudden I realized all those things, all those horrible thoughts my brain was yelling at me, I didn't decide any of those things. I didn't decide I was a piece of shit. I wasn't didn't decide I wasn't good enough to handle this world. Didn't decide that this world is scary. But they were all in there. I didn't put them there. I'm like, how did all this bullshit get here? Okay, let's move to page 2 of the slide. This is where it gets exciting, and this is where this is just a very simple design to teach you the fundamentals of the IC solution. The IC stands for Instinctual Core. Okay, we're born with this default perspective of the inside of our head, everything that's going on inside our brain, all our thoughts, all our emotions, and all the behaviors that we carry out are our own. We're responsible for them. It's us doing them. They're our brain, right? All the thoughts are ours. All the emotions are ours. That's one way to look at things. That's not wrong or right. But there's another perspective, and that's this perspective over here on the right, where we no longer start to consider ourselves all that's going on, where we instead start to consider that we are the consciousness and that seed of consciousness, that awareness, that thing that makes us know that we are the ones inhabiting our body. That's our consciousness. And it makes use of this conscious brain, that part of the brain that we actually have control over. And which is only active a small percent of the time, by the way. It takes a lot of energy to run that brain. And think of it more of a behavioral economics sort of way. They call this, I'm related to like what they call the system two brain, which takes a lot of energy to run. It's wicked smart, but it runs very slowly. While compared to the system one brain, which I'm relating to the subconscious brain, since we're much more familiar with that term, but this term subconscious brain has been redefined over and over again in psychology over 200 years. So everyone kind of conjures up something different. But I'm talking about that system one brain that's running the show on autopilot 90% of the time. And basically, we're going to be doing whatever it is that system one brain, that subconscious, that because it is takes low power to run. It has incredible processing power and it is super fast. And if we don't decide to start taking control over it, it's going to run the show. We're going to be doing whatever it says. Now, there's a third character as well. There's this instinctual core. And that is this, the IC is a culmination of all our survival instincts compiled into one. And that uses that system one brain as its functioning brain. When we're born and we come out of the womb and we start crying, is that you doing that? You didn't decide to do that. There's something running the show. There's instincts that are running the show at that time using the already starting to develop system one brain. That system two brain, that conscious brain, and your consciousness haven't arrived on the show yet. It's run the show for a long time and it continues to run the show until we start to think differently. So what the instinctual core perspective, the IC perspective is to look at ourselves as this guy up here and realize that the chaos of our subconscious brain could be filled with total lies because this instinctual core, it's this as I said, it's the culmination of our survival instincts using this dumb brain. Why wouldn't we want it to be part of it? It's our survival instincts. They're here for our survival. Well, that's because it's not made for this world. It's made for a prehistoric world, a world where our tribe was about 100 people. Our world was about 100 square miles. And threats were threats. Threats were imminent. Threats were going to kill you. If you didn't escape that saber-toothed tiger, you were dead. If you didn't do something about this rival tribe, you were dead. If you did not find out where you were going to stay tonight, uh, or if you did not find that buffalo or that berry, you were going to starve to death. It was a totally different world, and the threats were very, very real. Now, that instinctual core is seeing thousands of threats in the same way, and it's thinking these things are life and death. And it's wrong. It is totally wrong. It got our species here, but it's no longer functioning. But the cool part is with the IC perspective, you no longer have to consider it as yourself. It is when I started to look at that thing as a separate intelligent entity inside my head, everything changed. That day, March 14th, when I kind of realized the foundations of these concepts that I'd been studying, I'd been studying neurology, psychology, everything, spiritualism. Uh, the foundations of this started to hit, and I never wanted to drink again because I knew there was only one truth, and that is drinking's going to kill me, and I am not drinking. And I saw that all the other lies starting to process through my brain, try to get me to get that drink. Go get it. Please, please go get that drink. Get that drink. Solve these problems. All these problems go away if you get that drink. No, it's a lie. And once I saw it as separate, I was able to start to train that little puppy inside my head and say, we're not getting that drink ever. And it is absolutely the same with, let me jump over to the way I chose to break down what's going on inside our head. This is called the IC User's Guide, Instinctual Core User's Guide. And this is how it works. And I'm going to show you what it was doing for me. And the main foundation of when it was trying to get me to drink was that it told me that I was at the bottom of the pecking order. And if I went outside, I had to be very cautious of what I said. What if someone laughed at me? What if I got out of my place? Because I was at the bottom and it wanted me to maintain that my place. At the same time, it wanted me to be cool, say the right things, and do the right things to move up in my position in the pecking order. It wanted me to attain the treat of getting someone to like me. It wanted me to get rid of that thing. It wanted me to, and most of the time, it wanted me to escape that situation. So it was sending me cravings to get out of there. It was sending me demands saying, you're a piece of shit. It was sending me judgments. You're a piece of shit. It was sending me demands. Get out of this situation. But then it was also sending me the answer in the form of, well, it was sending me fear. Be afraid of this situation. And then it was sending me the answer in these demands. Go get a drink. Because it knew that was not the problem. That was the solution. All of a sudden it jumped me to the top. I should really turn off all my different alarms before I make a video. But I'm back. So it was telling me screaming, alcohol. For me, like, I used to party and drink and think it was all about partying, but then I continued to drink more and more and more. And it was no longer because I wanted to. It was because this IC said, these problems you're having with the pecking order, you can jump right to the top. It was the solution. Have a drink and you're at the top of the pecking order. And then but it existed not only on this pecking order layer, on the belonging, or on the need to be loved, on the safety layer when my finances started falling apart. And then eventually it dropped into the physiological layer where not only was alcohol, when it more important than food, it eventually became more important than water. And it eventually became just as important as breathing. The moment I woke up, I searched for that bottle. It was messed up. And I couldn't change a thing when I thought that thing yelling was myself. But when I realized, so that's why I have this that it was screaming, go get the drink, go get the drink, go get the drink, go get the drink, nonstop. And eventually I had to give in. But then when I realized that, hey, this thing is separate from me, and it was yelling, go get a drink, go get a drink. And I could stay totally calm and just watch as it passed through. I had been totally hijacked, but I learned to let things just start to pass through. Just like a puppy sitting on a bed, well, trying to get on your bed to sleep, and it just keeps on barking because it knows if it keeps on barking, you're going to let that puppy up to sleep on the bed. But if you just be firm, lovingly say, no, puppy, you're not getting on the bed. Just like I'd say, no, little IC, you're not getting that drink. That's not actually helping us survive. In 3 days, the puppy says, oh, this lovely bed you made me here on the ground is absolutely perfect. I don't need to get up there. You're annoying. You snore anyway. And so that's the same thing that would happen with the IC. It would continue to scream and scream and scream. And it would just say, oh, shit, he's not really following my orders anymore. And it would get quieter and quieter and quieter. The whole time, I didn't care if it screamed or not because I knew I wasn't going to get a drink. Now, that's me with alcohol. The same thing could be said for food. Food is like, oh my God, it's a physiolocal need. Delicious is a total lie. Delicious was made for an evolutionary purpose to get us to eat the healthiest things on the planet. And those things are things that were made by nature. The sweetest things, the berries, the saltiest things, the meat, the savoriest thing, the fat from the meat. But obviously now, when you saw that picture that came up in the beginning, all the things that are delicious, that are so much more delicious than things made up by nature, are these things that are poisonous for our bodies, that are killing us. But if we listen to our brain saying, go get delicious, it's telling you that because it wants you to survive. But the truth is, now that signal is a lie. In this world, the delicious is a lie. Hunger that's constantly coming up, that's not hunger. Hunger is what happens to you after about a week of not eating. That's just appetite. That's a lie. You don't need to fill it every time it starts to say, oh, go get me something, I'm empty, right? And so, but these are the things that you can start to do when you start to work the IC solution. Another one, smoking. God, smoking is can be so related to with the same story I told about with alcohol. As soon as and a smoking experience, people who smoke and I used to smoke when I drank. Unfortunately, I was never one that got addicted to it because if I was sober and I had one, it made me feel like vomit. But for a lot of people, that's the drug of choice. For me, it was alcohol, right? I just got lucky that I wanted to throw up after smoking a cigarette. But a lot of people just feel great. That edge, that thing screaming, like financial stress, work stress, go get the solution. But as soon as you start to question that solution, say, hey, that's not what I want. That's what the instinctual core want, because it treats it like the solution. But as soon as you say, we're not doing that anymore, you can start to see that you are not constantly craving a cigarette. Rather, these instinctual events only last about 3 minutes. And when you slowly let it pass through, it's going to come again maybe in another 2 minutes. You let it pass through, it goes away in 3 minutes. And eventually, when then you keep on telling that instinctual core, you're not me. I don't want the cigarette. You want the cigarette. I know why you want that cigarette. You think it's going to help us survive, but it's killing us. We're not going to do it anymore. Uh, Food. I mean, it relates back to all sorts of drugs. Gambling, even all sorts of addictions. But even just like it being in a state of anxiety, even if you don't have that, for me, I was in a state of anxiety all the time, and I had that drug of choice, alcohol. Some people are in a state of anxiety, but haven't found that IC hasn't found the perfect solution. But living in that fight or flight state keeps you in a state of stress. And that fight or flight state reroutes all the blood in your body to your muscles and it keeps it away. And things like your digestive system, your immune system are weakened. So, yeah, just being in that state. Same thing here. If the IC is constantly sending fear and demands run away from the situation, then you're in this heightened state. You can let fear pass right through. Once you realize the fear is being sent for you to run away from a situation because it's a matter of life and death. Once you realize that all other fear is bullshit, you can start to just let that pass through the way I was letting the cravings pass through for alcohol. Okay, so I think I've rambled on. I think I've made my point right. Anyways, this is just one video and a whole bunch in a series that I've just started to make. I've been working on this for ever, but I finally I'm starting to make videos because it's all ready, where we can start working on our ICs inside ourselves together. And it's all at the if you're ready to start making real changes in your life, come to instinctcenter.com. In the meantime, like this video because I like you if you do. I'd appreciate that. Subscribe. Yeah, help spread the word. I know the solution that they kept on sending me to was the 12 steps of AA, and that worked for some people, and it did not work for a whole bunch of others. This is a different solution. This is a different niche, and it might just help. It might not help you. I think it'll help, but it's going to help a lot of people. And so subscribe, help me get the word out there. And that's all I got. In the meantime, have a great day. Peace out. Love ya. Let me press. How do I stop this? Stop. Adios.